Welcome back to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. We couldn't do these without the incredible support of our sponsors, and we want to start by saying thank you to all of them. First, thanks to our diamond sponsor, Varsity Brands, including BSN, Varsity Spirit, and Herff Jones. Varsity Brands, elevating student experiences in sport, spirit, and achievement. We also want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, including Ephesus Lighting, innovating a brighter future at every level. Gilman Gear, always a step ahead. Camp Mobile, where leaders communicate better. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Vital Signs, bring student achievements to life. And Gipper, sports graphics made incredibly simple. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD. Our guest today is a good friend, Don Bales. He's a certified master athletic administrator. He's a longtime high school AD, currently retired, but he's not just sitting on the sidelines. He is the coordinator for the NIAAA's professional development program. And so that means he has a hand in LTI courses, in certification, in quality program. He does it all. So Don, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jake. It truly is an honor to speak before my constituents and those that see the possibilities when they see another avenue to communicate what may be new ideas or thoughts that others can share. And I think that truly is why I have been involved with the NIAAA. It's an organization that, I go back, I started serving on the board of directors in 1994. In 96, I had applied for the presidency and served as the president of the national board in 98. But it was after that I was approached by the NIAAA to assist with an ever-growing program, leadership training. And I saw the value in leadership training. Let me take a step back. I'm going to do a little bird walk here. When I began in 1981 as an athletic administrator, I was a teacher and a basketball coach. I had coached 3 sports prior to that, but I was down to a varsity basketball coach. And that position as an athletic administrator at our school was an administrative position. What did that mean? I wasn't sure. In fact, I turned it down twice, and they came after me a third time in May. And I'll be very honest. I'll tell you what changed my mind. I was at a basketball clinic in May, and someone came out with a statistic in Indiana that the average tenure of a varsity basketball coach in the state of Indiana was 3.4 years. And I really liked my community. I liked the people I was working with. I saw the dynamics and the stretching that one had to do as a varsity basketball coach. And I said, maybe I need to take a look at something a little different. I was only 29 years old at that time. And I thought, well, if this doesn't work, I can take a step back. But in 81, when I took that job, I had no idea the kinds of things that an athletic administrator would be involved with. Not understanding. I knew you needed to do scheduling. I needed to do contest management. There was this idea about evaluating coaches, but what did that mean? What kinds of things should be included in it? And I think that's where the dynamics, being involved with the NIAAA helped me to be with people that had new ideas. They started growing those ideas in different ways. And it was in, I believe, 1996, when Dr. John Olson, Jim Teff, and Jim Watkins sat out in Kansas City in a room and started developing an idea about what would it take to develop some kind of course that could help athletic directors understand what was involved in the position. Their objective at that time was to try to keep athletic directors in the job. There was such a vast turnover. I mean, it was like me. When you get into it, all of a sudden you go, whoa, really? All of this? And there was no script. And I think what happened is the NIAAA allowed these three gentlemen to grow that program. You know, we started with one 8-hour course, and we piloted that course. And after that, we found out 8 hours was way too much for someone to absorb. So that had to take that apart into, which eventually grew into 4 other courses. But the part of that that's really essential is an understanding of what goes into really each segment. And that kind of gets me to where I am now. You know, one of the things that I do now with the NIAAA is assist Dr. Scott Smith in identifying new course themes. What is out there on cutting edge? What are we looking at that athletic administrators need to know more in depth about? And now I'm going to bird walk back. Example, when we started that first law course, it was accumulation of all litigation that was in athletics. From that, we developed the 504, the 14 legal duties. Now, is there anything unique about those? Those 14 duties existed always, but defining them in such a way and the implications if they're not followed and the training that's important to help them be applied was dynamic when you begin to understand it. And that's where I saw the effectiveness of leadership training courses. It helped the people understand in depth what they should be doing, what they should be applying. And now it's developed into a greater thing. You know, it's the other thing that I do is the Quality Program Award. It provides a vision. It gives an idea of what you should be doing with a strategic plan. You know, where do you think forward? Where do we need resources? Those resources may be funding, it may be facilities, it may be personnel, it may be training, those kinds of, it may be mentoring, it may be increased risk management, you know, that is not taking place, but that kind of program. So you can see the connection. And then the other place that grew from there is the certification component. You know, validation that an individual understands what they're doing. And they've taken time to research that, absorb it, apply it, and there's where certification comes in. It validates that. It shows that the individual has made a commitment to that kind of information that is out there. So those are, you can see the interaction, the intertwining of all the components that with the NIAAA.
Oh, that's such a great description of the NIAAA, and again, all the things that you have a hand in right now in guiding and directing. Let's go back a little bit. You shared with our listeners what you're doing now. I'm always curious to hear, that journey. Tell us a little bit about, where you grew up, where you went to school, and obviously your love of athletics, how that maybe led to that first teaching and coaching job.
Well, I grew up in a small community, not far from where I live now. School at that time, in fact, my graduating class was 54 students. So, and therefore, in a school like that, you have the opportunity to participate in a multitude of activities. For me, that included things such as student council, as well as being a three-sport athlete. Before the understanding of what three-sport athlete was about, we just did
what you did. Yeah.
Everybody did it. That's what you did. In fact, to give you an example, we had fall baseball. And before you could come out for basketball, you had to go run cross country a couple meets before you could try out for basketball. So you just had those kind of things. So you can see you're immensely involved in a lot of different activities. And And with that involvement, I had a lot of enjoyment. I go, wow, this, I can go back there. In life, there's a lot of things that go on for us, but there's the moments and everything else we forget around them. It's the moments, and it's those moments that help me or nudge me in the direction of an interest in athletics. So then after I left high school, I went on to what was at that time called Indiana Central College, which now is called the University of Indianapolis. And in there, I participated in baseball. And during my sophomore year, I was cut from baseball. Didn't know what I was going to do. It's the first time in my life since I was a fifth grader that I hadn't been on any kind of team. And it was kind of shocking to me. And I just happened to be just running and training and I had a college coach that approached me and said, you ought to come up for the track team. And I can remember my response. I said, Coach, I would really enjoy that, but at the collegiate level, I'm not fast enough and strong enough for track. But the one thing I know I want to do is someday I want to coach. So I'd like to be around people like you that can show me the ins and outs about it. So I became a track manager. And I'm going to take a step back again. My father was a tremendous organizer. He was precise about everything. He was a businessman that started a business in this community in 1959, and it still is in operation today. It's 60 years plus that it's in operation. And one of the things he always demanded was, if you're going to do it right. And this is how you should do it. And so I kind of took that, and without even saying it, I just applied it to it. And when I became track manager, I looked at the way things were done, in such as the equipment room. It was a shambles. I gotta be honest, it was a shambles. Stuff was just thrown in there. And I go, man, I can't do this. I can't hand out equipment. We got to have a recording system. We've got to and I did that. And I reorganized. The next thing I knew, the next fall when I returned to school, the college athletic director called me in and said, hey, my track coach has talked to me about how you've taken the job as a manager and grown it. We'd like you to take over the football managing job. So I became the football equipment manager. So I have a lot of respect for managers in what they do.
And those, as you know, as a coach, you find a good manager, those are gold. Okay, so
They are. They really can cover a lot of mistakes that get made. They really can help you. So that's what I did, and I continued to run on my own. I ran with the college track team and just trained just on my own and learned about training and that kind of thing. So that when I accepted my first position, I had a degree in biology, so I got a science position at a middle school. Lot of difference. Let me tell you, there's a lot of difference between biology and 6th and 7th grade science. A lot of difference. But with that position, I was said, hey, you need to coach 3 sports. So the first one you're going to coach is cross country. And so I met with the cross country coach, and he asked me, what do you know about running? I said, here's what I do. And when I explained, he goes, that's enough. I can teach you the rest. And he took teams to the state championship through the years. So I was very, very blessed to have someone that had that kind of knowledge and gave me that. And I coached basketball and baseball. So I had 3 sports, as well as teaching 6th and 7th grade science. That kind of experience led me to another school that I applied for a job at a high school. It opened in August, which is short term before the school year started. And I thought my high school basketball coach said, hey, you need to go down and just get a chance for an interview, see what the experience is like. Because he knew that everything. And I think the most important thing about life is, are you looking at the possibilities of growth? I think that's what makes you get up in the morning. When you look at the possibilities, how you can grow something, how you can become part of someone else's growth, you get enthused, inspired by that. I think that's what drives you. I said, okay, I'll take that chance. And he put me through some mock interviews. My wife called down there and they said, well, if you have your application here by 4 o'clock, we're going to close it. So I was right at borderline. And she asked, well, how many applicants? There was 28 people that applied. And I thought, I hope I even get a shot at it. Well, next thing I knew, the next day I got a call. I was one of 8 that got an interview, and therefore I got selected out of those 8. And 2 years later, I was approached by the principal and the athletic director and superintendent about becoming the AD. Now, how do you ever come to someone that's got 2 years of varsity basketball coach to become the athletic director? I literally look back. I think they look at individuals who are in our program. We had a feeder system. You were responsible for middle school, junior high, as well as your high school. So you have a lot of personnel. You have programs that you have to oversee beside the one in which you're totally responsible for, and that you're evaluated on Friday and Saturday nights. So I think they saw where we were going with our feeder system, and they saw the communication I had with personnel, and the kind of commitment that I had made to it. And so that I was approaching it. But again, that gets me to the point that is in 1981, I really didn't know what yes meant when I said yes and how much involvement was. In fact, I took over a program after I said yes, I found out that we had a financial debt of almost $20,000. And in 1981, we still owed invoices clear back to 1977. Terrified me. What was I going to do? How was I going to do it? So I went about contacting some people that I really trusted, that I found out that really were resourceful in their creativity. And I used their ideas, and within 1 year, we were out of debt. And then many other changes took place. And as I began to grow in athletic administration, one of the things that I saw that makes an athletic administrator respected in what they're doing, they care about people. They really genuinely care about people in the experience, starting with kids. And you wanted to see kids have a really good opportunity in what they're doing. So then you have to find out, what do those look like? What are those possibilities? And so you need to attend workshops. You need to speak to people you trust, and you need to be a very resourceful listener, not someone that just lets it go. Resourceful.
Let's go and talk about some of those people. You've already alluded to it a little bit, but in our business, we always talk about the importance of leadership and mentoring that next generation. And I'm always curious, who were some of your mentors, coaches growing up, or people that you've worked with or for? You and I have been doing this for a while now, but the expression I like to use is, whose voice do you still hear in your head when you're talking to teachers or coaches or other ADs?
Well, probably one of the first coaches that I really embraced what they're doing was the cross country coach that mentored me when I took the position. And why did I do that? I saw an individual who took, let's give an example, who took the practice environment and said, this is a classroom. And every time he did a practice, he had kind of a message to his kids about what they were doing. And he not only did a practice after school, he had morning workouts, he had off-season training, he saw us running in the summertime at possible road races at that time was big. So what I saw is an individual who really understood what embracing a job was about. It isn't an 8 to 4 job. It was someone that, and didn't complain anything outside of it. Didn't complain. He saw his kids really, really going to have a better experience if I can get them to buy in what they're. So that is one of the individuals I really embraced. Another would be my varsity baseball coach at that same school. He laid out a plan of the kinds of things that need to be incorporated. He had a master plan of the kinds of drills and techniques and things that should be incorporated through the season. They carefully constructed that. So it helped to create a structure and understanding that, you know, your arena is your classroom. And he applied it step by step. He's going from what we would say in the educational, from the unknown to the known, you know, from the simple to the complex. You know, he applied those without even saying it. You could see it. And those are terms that I kind of knew more about as I got into NIAAA and understood that a little bit more. But probably the best mentor that I didn't know was actually my father. And I'm going to be very honest. My father was a man that, you know, if you weren't, he always had a saying, if you weren't 15 minutes early, you were 10 minutes late. You know, he always said, you need to respect the time of other people. They're preparing, they're planning, be there on time. And when you do it, make a commitment to whatever you're doing and follow it through, finish it, those kinds of things. And then also my mother. The other part of it is my mother was a service person. She was compassionate. She was caring. She loved kids. I mean, I can't even tell you. And you think about the job we do, you don't do your job unless you love kids and seeing how they grow and how you connect with them. So those are two people that they may not have been coaches, but they were mentors. And there were people I admired for the qualities that I began to realize what they were teaching me when I was younger. I just didn't understand the embracement of it till I grew older and I had to put it in practice myself.
I really appreciate you sharing that. And again, it's so important. Sometimes we don't acknowledge the impact that our parents had on our lives. And just a great reminder that we didn't get here by ourselves. You know, we had a lot of help along the way. Don, we've been asking our athletic directors about COVID. You know, it certainly had an impact on our country, on our schools, on athletics. And we've seen such a wide range of responses. You know, some states have shut down sports completely. Other states have moved sports around. Football is going to be in the spring and baseball's in the fall. In my state of Florida, we delayed for about a month and then picked up with fall sports, but we still have seen in our state individual responses, differences from the Panhandle down to the Miami-Dade area. So my question is, I know you're retired, but share with us what's happening in Indiana as far as, you know, return to play, return to school. You know, what are some of the things that you've seen in your state so far?
Well, as far as the state of Indiana, they've been able to go right through it. They have all their sports in place. They are running their programs with some guidance. They've put in place such as temperature checks, some protocols in terms of and I'll give you an example. In our football program, we had through the temperature checks and administering the checkups with their athletes, they had an athlete that indicated that he had the COVID, and with that they did tracing, and they had as many as 15 athletes out. What did that mean? They had to postpone a game for a week. So there was an understanding. So I think one of the biggest things is an understanding among the opponents of what you're going to do if a school has to withdraw on a contest. I think everybody understand that based on the times, we'll just have to accept that. We've had that similar case. Let me give you a case in the school. the schoolhouse, they've had to, they have a process, they notify the public. Nothing is kept behind. They notify public, and it's gone out. They have a Facebook page they put it on, as well as an informational email says, we've discovered a student had symptoms of COVID. We're doing, and it goes through a long process. So I think that's the important part is what is going to be your response to a case? What and who do you have to contact? Who are the kind of people that you have to have that with? How can you assure the public that you have safety measures in place? I think those are parts that are on the front end that you've demonstrated. These are the measures that we're taking. These are the measures we're going to taking in response to a case. So that's what I've seen happen. I just haven't been on the front line to know all the inside that's taking place.
What, again, as an outsider at this point, but what's been your perception as far as students or ADs or coaches as far as the return to play? Are they happy with the way things are going? Are there concerns? What have you seen from your position?
I think that depends on the personality of the individual. I'm going to be very honest. There are those that understand the implications of not of the restrictions. They understand the implications of not addressing the restrictions. So you're going to have both sides of the aisle that are going to see it differently. The important part is that people understand the seriousness of the illness and the impact it can have on others. I think you have to keep that out front and center, that seriousness that exists. And you have to keep the welfare of other individuals in mind when you do it. So I think what I'm gathering, what I see from people, many people, depending on the culture, the environment, those kind of situations, they've taken different stances, different approaches. And I'm going to give an example. The NIAAA took a long time to make a decision before the postponement of the national conference. And they were waiting to see, where we were with the number of cases across this nation. And I think what they found is that cases vary depending on the region, but what doesn't vary is you're going to bring people all into one environment, into one building, the kinds of things that can lead to a seriousness of it. And do we were responsible for orchestrating such an event of doing that? So I think that same kind of scenario happens when we're looking at athletics for kids. And what can we do to make sure there's safety procedures in place? So again, I think you have to look at it, what your culture is willing to handle. I know that, and I'm going to give an example. I know we're close enough to Illinois. They've shut everything down. And they've moved. I believe they've moved their football season to the spring. And the people that made that decision they're really taking a lot of heat for it. But on the other hand, you got to decide what kinds of measures do we need to keep people safe. So you've got that debate back and forth. What is safe? And I guess I'm not enough on the inside, and I can only let me give you an example. I'm on the team leadership at our church, and we had to decide on services. Do we come inside? We looked at our membership, our congregational, and overall probably an older generation. And all the facts lead up to the older you are, the more susceptible you are to more seriousness of it. And therefore, what are our alternatives? We designed things such as Connect. We had volunteers that took on and would make calls to our members, each week, 4 or 5 different people. We had podcasts where we filmed we had a service and we did a podcast. The podcast then said email and people can listen to the service that way. We went to an outdoor service with guidelines and restrictions, 6 feet distance, everybody wear masks, and there were several other details about it. So we took a look at the details that needed to go with it to provide assurance that this is a safe environment. So you're carefully looking at that. Now, as the weather has changed, we're going to have, we got 2 services, and then you cross it over. How do you provide to make sure there's, everything is clean in between services? Well, we have an upper level and lower level. And so we now put in procedures for each one and personnel that are involved with it. So I think these are the same kind of natures that you look at that's going on with athletic programs. You're looking at all the details where people are making contacts. I know for our high school football program, they were limiting the number of ticket sales that could come into an event. Mm-hmm. They were limiting. If you had to pre-buy your ticket. Once it had a number, that was it. No more. They wouldn't sell anymore. You couldn't come to the gate and get one. So there's a process that's involved. And they insisted about people that are coming in there wearing masks and trying to social distance those. And by allowing so many in, they can keep that distance in the stadium.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And again, it's just such a tough call to make. But as you said, safety's got to be the number one priority, and you got to do what's best for your group. Don, this has just been great catching up with you. I know we get to see each other every year at state coordinators and at nationals, but this has been great. But we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. And we've done quite a few of these. And I think that you might have the hardest time answering this particular question because of all the things that you have helped develop over the years. But here goes. I'm tasking you with sending out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. What 3 things are going to go in Don Bales' athletic director toolbox?
I think the number one is you're going to need to speak to some people who find out who are the most successful athletic directors. And what does success mean? It means they run programs consistently. They have a variety of opportunities. That's number one. They become your mentors. They're a resource. They are a resource. Good athletic directors are resources. So that's number one. I think the second thing that you're going to do is make sure you understand that you are going to need to educate yourself. Growing is knowing, and knowing is growing, because you're going to have to make decisions that are going to be and in order to do that, you're going to have knowledge that come from resourceful things. And one of the great ways to do that is connect with your state and national websites of their resources that are available. The NIAAA has a lot on their information. They have a lot of workshops. Our state organization has the workshop information. So there's the knowledge base that you need to do. I think the third thing is learn how to communicate, what it means to communicate. If you know how to communicate, you're going to build relationships. When you build relationships, you build trust. When you build trust, you build confidence. And that kind of thing will help you a long way in the peaks as well as the valleys. And people are going to, they may not agree with you, but at least they're going to understand you're going to be a person they can listen to. So that is important. You've got to understand how to communicate. And communicate doesn't mean being the broadcaster. It means the person that's able to listen carefully. Did you really listen? What did that individual say? And then take it. So those are 3 that I would suggest they would add to their toolbox.
Yeah. Wow, those are 3 great things. Networking, get a mentor, focus on professional development, and continue to work on your communication skills. Great stuff. And you didn't have any trouble with that at all. Boy, I thought you might be torn a little bit. Don, thanks so much for being with us today. Continued success in your role, and looking forward to maybe crossing paths with you virtually at the national conference.
Well, Jake, I can sincerely thank you for asking me to be part of this. I really enjoy. I think one big thing that I've learned as an athletic administrator, the joy that really came with the job was the people you get to meet. And with our state organization as well as the national organization, I met so many wonderful people. Their ideas, their joyful experience, their communications, the kind of things I talk about, it really made the job so much more enjoyable. It's those connectivities, opportunities that are so instrumental in our life, personal life, that keep us going. We're going to need those. You know, we got many challenging things as an athletic director. We need some personal connections to help lift us up, to give us that inspiration.
Oh, absolutely. I tell people all the time, I don't think there's any other job besides ours where, we get to have the variety of interactions with adults, with kids, coaches, parents. It's what makes our job so enjoyable. Well, thanks again, sir.
Yep. And thank you, Jake, for doing this. I really see the benefits. If people take the time to listen in and chime on the number of resourceful people you have, I can see here's another growth opportunity for people.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed it and definitely enjoyed having you on. To our listeners, thanks as always for tuning in. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD.
Okay.
Don't forget, the video recording of this interview is on the FIAAA Educational AD YouTube channel. Thanks again for listening.